Welcome to another episode of the Palace Huddle Podcast. Here are your hosts, Rob Schwartz and Justin Onayemi, two Bears fans who decided talking into a microphone was better than shouting at their television.
Welcome in, Palace Huddlers. Huddle up. All right. We are coming off of a very, very big win for the Chicago Bears. It's always good to talk about a win, but it's also very good to talk about a 36-10 victory. I don't care who the
big win
was.
Yep.
But as always, I'm Rob Schwartz with Bear Goggles On. With me in this midweek episode is Bob Weiss. Welcome in. Before we get started, please hit that subscribe button. We are trying to give away a free Chicago Bears jersey, and in order to do that, we got to get to 750 subscribers. We were at 669 going into our Sunday episode, and I mentioned how I didn't want that to change because I like the 69 number. This is an explicit show, by the way. And we got to 670, and then I looked a little bit earlier today, and we're back down to 669. So I'm just joking. I don't want it to stay that way. So please share this.
Let's get to 769. Why not? You know?
There we go. 769 gets the jersey off the door. So please share this with the people that you know that are Bears fans. Please hit that subscribe button, like, comment. We love comments. Not very many off that last episode, so none to actually discuss tonight. But we do have plenty of other options for our news or noise. Before we do that, this is going to be episode 95. And I forgot to actually...
like a couple episodes ago, it had to be Ditka. Like this one, it's Richard Dent.
I was going to say, it's got to be Dent, right? There's no one else even worthy of discussion.
Yeah, I mean, Anthony Adams, fun, Roy Robertson Harris was an interesting player, but DeMarcus Walker right now is really just a solid player. Really enjoying DeMarcus Walker, but yeah, it's the Richard Dent episode.
Yeah, Richard Dent wins it, but I'll give a quick shout out to Anthony Adams just because of how awesome he is as the
fun guy, great guy.
Yeah, I mean,
he's a good player too. I mean, he wasn't just some scrub; he was a good player.
He was, but when he started doing those free agent videos, that sold me. So, and he was the principal in the draft episode.
That's right.
So, all right, well, we got a lot to talk about, so let's dive in. We're going to dive into our news or noise section. This is what we do every week. Things pop up throughout the week, and what we like to do is talk about them and decipher, is this actually news? It's newsworthy, or is it just a bunch of noise from overreactions, some national media incidents where, guys don't pay enough attention, that type of situation. So one of the big ones that I saw last week, and I'm actually glad you put this in here because I forgot that it was out there. This is something that Gary Ross, friend of the show, I have all love for Gary Ross. Great guy. If you don't know who he is, go on Twitter, follow him. He has good connections to the Bears and has insider information. So I give him credit where all is due. But we were going back and forth on Twitter about comments that I was seeing from a bunch of other relatively large followings for Twitter. And people were talking about how the Chicago Bears didn't draft Jayden Daniels or any other quarterback for that matter, just because they didn't scout them. They locked on to Caleb Williams. And basically the end all of the whole thing was they didn't even consider anyone else. I already know where I'm at with this. We'll throw it to you first. Is this news or noise?
Well, I'm actually going to just throw it back to you on this one. I get to go first all the time. I know.
Okay, good.
You got a strong opinion on. Why don't you go, and then I'll just kind of fill in the gaps where necessary.
All right. So this might be one where Bob and I might disagree. I am completely calling this noise. I call this noise because here's the thing. I am really, really big into draft content. Like really big into draft content. I don't watch the NCAA. Like very little college football do I watch throughout the actual season. Come December, when we're getting close to the end of the NFL season, is when I start to lock in. I watch game tape, right? Like all 22 film. I have access to it for college film. Not all of it, but a good portion of it for certain teams. And I analyze players, watch what they're doing, footwork, mechanics, all kinds of stuff. Let's just talk quarterbacks here for a second. But I do it for all players. I come up with at least a top 150 list that I put out for the Chicago Bears. I also have a 150 list for players who maybe the Bears are overlooking because they don't need anyone at that position, but they're going to be higher on that board versus on the Bears board just because they're a better talent, a better prospect. For me to hear anyone say that the Bears locked in on Caleb Williams, didn't do their due diligence, didn't scout players, and I don't want to hear, and sorry, Gary, this is where you were at with this. Well, they scout every player. Yes, of course they do. But they also scout certain players more than they do other players because you're not going to scout these guys who, you watch them for a little bit on film, nothing stands out, you move on. But you're going to scout at least the top 200-300 players with a lot of eyes. It's not even just going to be your area scouts. It's going to go past up the chain, right? They're going to do this due diligence because it's what I do, and I'm not even getting paid for this. So to think that they're not doing anything because, they didn't give them a top 30 visit. They didn't give them a private workout. No. They saw enough on film from Caleb Williams on his college film, and so did I. He was in a tier by himself. Actually, he was in a tier with Marvin Harrison Jr. with me for a while, and then he moved up a tier by himself. They also got to talk to all of these quarterbacks at the combine. So it's not like they didn't actually interview them. They sat down, had conversations with them. Right, you're right. They didn't give them a top 30 visit. They didn't have them in for private workouts. At that point, they were locked in on Caleb Williams. That part I will admit. But it was because of all of their due diligence and homework and the fact that they knew they had the first overall pick that they didn't need to do anything else. So the noise part of it is the after effect. You had your guy come March after the combine. You knew exactly where you were going, and that's exactly how it should have been. And I feel like they made the right decision. And 2 weeks ago, everyone would disagree with me because Jayden Daniels looked like a hero and Caleb Williams was not looking quite as good. Now the recency bias is there because he threw over 300 yards, no interceptions, 2 touchdowns. Floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, it's noise. You
okay? I'm glad you
couldn't have said more. I mean, yeah, scouting is a process. The draft prep is a process. They've been scouting Caleb Williams as a quarterback before they even knew they had the number 1 overall pick when he was a freshman in Oklahoma. They've been scouting Jayden Daniels since he was at Arizona State. Like, they know these players. They're not just scouting players based off the ESPN top 10 in the fall. Like, They know what they're doing. And so everything else Rob just said is spot on. And then, Jayden Daniels has had a terrific start to his career. So then that's just adding fuel to the fire, to the angst of the Bears fan. Oh my gosh, we got the wrong guy again. Just relax. Caleb Williams can throw the ball, and it's okay that Jayden Daniels is a productive player. Okay. And here's the thing, like, maybe you shouldn't say it. I'm not rooting for it, say the quiet part out loud. One of the biggest knocks on Jayden Daniels in my mind, and Rob, I know you thought the same thing, was the body. All right. The guy's 6'2", 210. Like, he's not built to last in the NFL. He's just not. So when he's banged up in week 13, 14, and Caleb Williams is still throwing for 280, 300 yards, like, it's going to look different. So just easy on the Jayden Daniels talk. It's okay that he's looking good. That's fine. All we care about is that Caleb Williams, our guy, is progressing, and he just put like a stellar game on his resume.
There's 2 things here. Jayden Daniels can be a great quarterback. I don't care as long as Caleb Williams is a great quarterback, right? Like, that can be true.
Yeah.
But this gives me RG3 Andrew Luck vibes. It just does.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
All right. I'm glad you agreed, even though we've talked off show that we're trying to find some that we don't always agree.
I know. It's more interesting when we don't just agree, but I mean, come on, people. Come on.
So Gary, chime in. Leave us a comment. Come on, Gary. Leave us a comment. Let's keep this talk going. All right. Another one that you threw out here. I actually didn't even look into this. I had no idea that this was actually true or not. But currently, the Chicago Bears are 9th in the NFC standings. The Bears are not good enough to make the playoffs. As we all know, top 7 teams make it to the playoffs. They're in a very tough division because of a Vikings team that no one saw coming at 5-0. Is there a chance? Do they got a chance? Are they good? I shouldn't say is there a chance. Are they good enough is the key.
Yeah. So this is, I'm going to go a little bit kind of news on this one. It's kind of the way it's worded, right? Through 5 games, the Bears in totality have not been good enough to make the playoffs. This 5-game sample is not a playoff team, but you don't make the playoffs off of a 5-game sample. You make it off of a 17-game sample. So where's this team trending? The team is trending in the right direction. We got, like I said, I keep saying a borderline championship caliber defense. Like they're not quite there yet, but you actually have to win something before you're there, and they really haven't won anything yet. And this offense is trending in the right direction. If you take a borderline championship defense and get a offense that is, league average to slightly above league average, that is a team that can do damage in the playoffs. That is the team that can do damage when the schedule gets tougher in the second half. They got some stuff coming up here, should be some more wins. And then if they can just, those last 8 or 9 games of the season, I wish I had in front of me, just go 4-5, 5-4, then that is a playoff team. So in terms of this, right now, these 5-game samples, it's not playoff worthy, just these 5 games, but I do think they're trending in the right direction.
So you kind of you're riding the fence a little bit on this one.
Right on the fence. Like if you want to look at these 5 games and say that's not a playoff team, I can't disagree with you. These 5 games is not the 5 games of a playoff team, but it's irrelevant. It's a 17 game that gets you there.
All right. I'm going to go straight up noise. And maybe I'm doing it just to be a little bit more devil's advocate here, but I'm going to go straight up noise just because of the fact that they are 3-2. Justin and I talked about it 2 weeks ago, how we felt like they needed to win at least 2 out of their next 3 games. They've already done that. Now we're going to talk about them going to London and playing the Jaguars, who is a beatable team. They're 1-4. I'm going to just say that it's noise for the fact that I don't look at the NFC. The team that I thought was going to dominate in the NFC was the 49ers. And I know they're dealing with a lot of injuries. Once Christian McCaffrey comes back, that team's going to probably look very different. But seeing them struggle to put wins together, seeing the Rams in their situation, again, injuries not helpful. Can the Vikings truly maintain this run that they're on? I'm not sold completely. We just saw Sam Darnold have a really bad game, even though they won. I just think that there's too many teams in the NFC that are just like meh and beatable.
So I don't mean that's to cut you off, but I mean, that's a good segue to my next point is like, I agree that there's a lot of just kind of good meh in the NFC, but I still think that that's just where the Bears are right now.
Sure.
Like, can they get higher than that by the end of the season? That's fine. But I mean, we're in 9th. Vikings, Commanders, Falcons, Seahawks, Lions, Buccaneers, Cowboys, Packers. Could the Bears beat all of those teams ahead of them? Sure. But are they absolutely in a tier above all those teams? Absolutely not at this point. So I mean, even behind us, there's the Eagles and Saints and Cardinals. Those teams probably think that by the end of the season, they could be in there too. So there's 12 teams for 7 spots. Are the Bears right now definitely there? They got to play the other 12 games, and we'll find out.
Yeah, I think it's week 11 before they start playing their division, and that's really where we're going to see, when things turn. Getting a win this weekend against the Jaguars, I think, could really set them up nicely, though.
Yeah, no doubt. And that would be a team that a playoff caliber team needs to go in and beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. So we'll learn a lot that way.
Yeah, and it's not just winning, and we'll get to that in a minute because it's not just how it's not just winning the game. Sometimes it's how you win. In fact, I'm going to shuffle this up. We're going to go to number 4 here on this and kind of segue into that because it's a good segue. Yeah. The Bears win over the Carolina Panthers, right? Dominant win, 36-10. As soon as it happened, all over social media, it's not a big deal because it was against the worst team in the NFL. News or noise?
Oh, that's noise. I mean, how you win matters. If they would have beat how they beat the Rams, yeah, they were better, but it wasn't necessarily the prettiest win ever. But they won, so they're better, or the Titans the same way. They would have been different. Yeah. But this was a straight up dominant performance, and it started off really bad. I don't know what I was in the same boat. I started watching the game late. I know you watched the game late. 3 and out on defense, great, good. That's what we expected. But then the first ball could have been a pick 6, and then a run for nothing, and then a bad sack, offensive line, and Caleb looked back. I don't know whose fault that sack was. And then the big run for a touchdown. You're like, oh my gosh, Jesus Christ, really? But then the offense turned it on and just solid drives, not just getting lucky or whatever, just good play after good play after good play after good play for 30 straight points. Okay. And then even after that, I've gone back and watched this game twice since Sunday because I love seeing it, just sheer domination. That second half, they only scored 9 points or whatever, but that wasn't because the Panthers stopped them at all. The only thing that stopped the Bears was the Bears.
Yeah.
The referees on the first drive, DeAndre Swift got called for that nonsense holding penalty.
Bullshit call.
Terrible. The second drive had a field goal just because of that clipping call, which I think was the right call. I've heard people saying he shouldn't have called it, but I mean, it was a clip.
It was a clip.
He dove from the side to the knee. It was a clip.
Yeah.
That's the only reason they didn't get a touchdown there. The next drive, they got a false start on first down. So started 1st and 15. They couldn't overcome that. The next drive was DJ Moore's drop. That was just awful. And then the next drive was after the turnover. They got the touchdown on the short field. The only team that stopped the Bears was the Bears. This could have been a 50-point win if they just would have played better in the second half. So, no, that's noise. It's a big deal because they did what you're supposed to do to the worst team in the league.
Yeah, and I completely agree on that. It doesn't matter. I mean, you can only play who you can play. You only play with people that are on your schedule, right? But again, it's how you win games. And that's what I'm looking forward to this weekend is I don't want to see just a win. I want to see continuation. And it might not be 36-10 because
we might we'll get into that in the second half. We might see this game a little differently.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to see a continuation of what we saw, especially from the offense. All right, going back. Keenan Allen was a waste of a 4th-round pick trade. Now, especially showing that or seeing that Davante Adams is basically on the trade market, right? Would you rather Davante Adams or Keenan Allen? That's a different debate, right? In this case, was it a waste of a trade for Ryan Poles? News or noise?
I'm going to go a little bit of news here, just because I think to this point we haven't needed Keenan Allen to get to where we are. At the time the trade happened, we're like, oh my gosh, this guy in the slot, he's going to be wide open. He's going to be Caleb's best friend. And Caleb has done what he's done, progressed to this point, without him. So to that point, I think that, me hearing that and bringing it up today, there's a little bit of news to that is that Keenan Allen's had very minimal impact to where the Bears are right now. And that's trending very much in the right direction. However, when we get to this tough part of the schedule and we need to start getting critical 3rd downs in games that are close because both teams are playing well, I think that's when we're going to start to see Keenan Allen show up and make a difference. And then we maybe, it might be worth that 4th-round pick. But right now it seems like I'd rather have an extra offensive lineman. I'd rather have, maybe another receiver, like a young receiver or something right now. But, moving forward, I think it'll make a bigger impact.
Yeah, I think for me, I'd like to just put a pin in it and come back to it in a few weeks. we missed him in the first couple of games because of injury. The way I look at it is, he's Mr. Third Down. Like, he's supposed to be the guy that helps you get the first downs when you need them. We're just not seeing that yet. I'm hoping, now that he gets a little bit healthier, that'll come to happen a little bit more often. But for me, it's like, I won't feel, first of all, I don't think it's a waste of a trade. I don't think it's a waste of a draft pick, just because for me, a fourth round pick to get a guy like Keenan Allen is worth it, whether it works out or not. You're not giving up anything. It's not like a really high pick. It's not like there's a lot of money involved. Now, if he was to get a contract at this point for playing the way he's been playing, that'd be a little bit of a different story. Then it's like, oh, what are you doing, Ryan Poles? But right now, I think it's
on the contract too, though, right?
100%.
Yeah.
But I think right now it's a little too early to tell. And I think it's something we'll probably have to discuss in a few more weeks. All right. So this is kind of leading into the injury report, but Jaquan Brisker did not travel with the team due to coming up on the injury report with a concussion. That was from the big hit on Tommy Tremble last week, even though he didn't get pulled from the game. Does Jaquan Brisker need to change the way he plays? Because this is now 3 years in a row. Concussion issues. He keeps this up. I don't know how much longer he's going to last.
Yeah, so I'll go a little bit of news on this one. Like you said, there's a history of it. On this particular play, though, I guess you could say it's his fault because he's the one who delivered the hit, but it's the offensive player's fault for lowering his head. That did not have to be helmet-to-helmet contact, but rather than the offensive player bracing himself with his shoulder, he decided to just go down with his head like that. And I mean, that didn't work out well for him, and certainly, ended up with Brisker getting concussion too. So, because Brisker's attacking the way he does, like, the guy's just got to react, and obviously that's how he reacted. So does he need to change the way he plays? I mean, that's tough because that's how he plays, right? And I've been critical of Jaquan Brisker in the past. I just always thought the way he carries himself, the way he composes himself is above and beyond the actual impact that he makes on the football field. But this season, I think you can argue that he's been as impactful, if not the most impactful player on the defense. He's the one that's making these big plays. How many turnovers has he been a part of, right? Leading the team in tackles, I think I saw. Like, he's all over the place. So, yeah, that's a tough one. It might be a short but bright career if things don't change. But it's tough for me to say that he should change how he plays.
Yeah, I heard some people talking and kind of referring to him. I'm blanking on his name, but Merriweather, who was actually a part of the Chicago Bears for, I think, just one season. But he would get fined consistently for helmet-to-helmet contact.
I remember him. Yeah.
But
it was his reputation before he came to the Bears, and then he got a couple on the Bears.
Correct.
Yeah.
But in that sense, he also, he played for 10 years. I don't know how the CTE will be later.
Yeah.
But, he had a pretty lengthy career. My whole thing with Brisker is I don't want him to change because I feel like if you're going to try to worry about that, you're not going to play as well, right? If that's constantly in the back of your mind. But at the same time, from a health standpoint, I don't want to see a Tua type situation either, where it's just every time you see him take a hit, you're worried he's going to not get back up. So it's a tough situation. I wish him the best. I hope that nothing else happens and he can just, maintain the pace he was on. From what I recall, he let up 6 touchdowns last year and he hasn't let up a single touchdown this year. So right there.
Maybe not passing, but he gave up Chuba's home run.
Yeah, I'm just talking.
That was his gap. That was 100% Jaquan Brisker's gap that gave up that touchdown.
All right. Did you have anything else to touch on? I don't think we'll hit the bonus question.
No, I don't think so. We save that for when we need it.
Yep. All right. So we're going to take an ad break. But before we do, definitely, if you want to get in on some action, you want to get some bets in this week, you better get them in early if you want to bet on the Bears because they played 8:30 in the morning Central Time. Head on over to our sign-up page at signupexpert.com/huddle. This is sponsored by BetStamp. And what BetStamp offers is all of the sports books in your region, all the DFS sites in your region. It's a way for you to compare and get the best odds for whoever you're looking to make bets on, prop bets, team bets, whatever you want to do. Also, great sign-up offers. So you make a deposit. A lot of times there's some type of bonus for that. So check those out. See what's in your region. Sign up. Support our show. Have some fun. Gamble responsibly.
Always.
Yeah, always. But until then, go ahead and enjoy these ads, and we will be right back. Welcome back, Hallis Huddlers. We're now going into the second half of our show. The first half, we did news or noise. Always a good, fun topic. Now, before we get into the second half, where we're actually going to look at the Jacksonville Jaguars coming up versus the Bears in London, please subscribe to our channel. Get yourself into that free Chicago Bears jersey giveaway. As soon as we hit 750 subscribers, that jersey is being shipped out the door to whoever wins it. And then also help support the show by hitting that like button. Help support the show by adding some comments. We love comments. Okay. Maybe what we'll start doing is maybe doing some live shows, get you guys involved with that. But until I get the comment section going, I don't know if I can trust the live section to get going. So let's make this thing happen. Let's build this thing up.
Yeah, I mean, come on. You guys are still listening to the show. Obviously, you got some opinions about what happened in the first half of the show. Comment, let us know what you think was going to happen this weekend, too. The Bears going to get it done or not? Let us know.
Maybe you just think Rob is a fucking moron and you just want to put that in there. Rob, you're a fucking moron. Put it in there. I don't care. I comment back on it.
No, guys, he knows, but you can still let him know. It's fine.
All right. Let's get into the injury report. We already kind of touched on it a little bit with the Jaquan Brisker news. It's kind of frustrating that he's obviously not going to make the trip over to London. I am also mad at myself because I did not get a chance to practice my English accent. I was going to, per Justin, I was supposed to do this in like a whole like British, European accent thing. And
That's a Justin thing. We win. He can do the Sunday show in a British accent.
There we go.
I'll put that.
There we go.
Yeah.
The other two players that didn't travel with the Bears were Zach Pickens, who hasn't played yet anyway for quite some time, and Terrell Smith also did not make it. Kyler Gordon is on here. Tevin Jenkins, who's been in and out. That's a little bit of a mystery there. And Jacob Martin popped up with a toe, but he was a full participant, so I think he'll play. The Tevin Jenkins thing is a little bit interesting. I honestly think they looked pretty good with Bill Murray. And
Bill Murray, whatever, it's PFF, so take it with what you want. But Bill Murray was the 5th highest ranked guard in the league last week.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Plus, he's a great comedian. And then Pryor, right, on at right guard instead of
he's got a great left hook.
Yeah. Instead of Nate Davis, who just
what are you doing, dude? What are you doing?
Seems to be getting benched. Yeah, I mean that was a whole mess. But yeah. So again, the Bears are relatively healthy outside of the Jaquan Brisker part. Which, by the way, they're playing Elijah Hicks instead of
Jonathan
Owens, which is a little strange to me because Owens is usually the one that comes in, and I felt like he's been the one playing better outside of the stupid dropped interception.
Yeah, that was a bad one. Yeah, but it was almost too easy.
It was. Maybe that's why he's not playing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No. So on the Jacksonville side, again, is it the third team in a row where their best player on defense, or however you want to say it, is on injured reserve? Sorry, Justin, but Boyesade Olakun. Hope I got that Nigerian name correct.
That was way better than I was going to do.
On IR, he's a beast of a linebacker for you guys who just might not know Jacksonville's defense. So we're fortunate that he's not going to be there. And then there's just some other banged up guys on their offense. ETN, the running back, Ingram, their tight end, and then Gabe Davis, their third receiver, all limited at practice, but I think they're all going to play. And another guy who might make an impact is Tyson Campbell, who's a young cornerback for them, pretty good player, was designated to return from IR this week. I'm not sure if he's going to play or not, but it's in the realm of possibility.
Yeah. So again, they're getting not. I don't want to call it an easy matchup because on the defensive side of the ball, it definitely is. I mean, Roy Robertson Harris, we know that guy. We know that name, right? Like,
yeah,
he's an average player, but the fact that he's like their starting defensive tackle, like, I think that speaks volumes based off of what we have here in Chicago. And a good way to look at it is defensive DVOA. I love DVOA. I love how they do adjustments throughout the year, and they base it on who their opponent is and not just like take counting stats that add up when you maybe have a really weak schedule to start the year. Jacksonville is 32nd. They're actually worse than the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, so, that's not good.
No, that's not good. And I think that's going to obviously help Chicago. Obviously going to help Caleb Williams. I'd love to see Rome Odunze and or Keenan Allen get a little bit more action this week. But on the offensive side of the ball, they're actually ranked higher than Chicago. They're 16th in offensive DVOA, where the Bears are only 26th. By the way, the Bears are 7th on defense. So
in defense, so that's the thing. I mean, is Jacksonville 16th ranked DVOA against the Bears 7th ranked,
right?
And then it's the Jacksonville 32 ranked defense against the Bears 22nd ranked offense. So I mean, the Bears have the advantage on both sides of the ball there.
And you have to think that they're trending upward, right? Based off how they played the last 2-3 weeks versus how they did the first 2 weeks. Especially on offense. They didn't score a touchdown the first 2 weeks. But Brian Thomas Jr. is having a heck of a rookie year.
Having a really good impact. Really good impact. That's something I almost threw in the news or noise about Rome Odunze being the worst first-round wide receiver this year just because Brian Thomas is coming up. But I figured we'd talk about Brian Thomas here. Brian Thomas is a guy that I liked. If we were going to go offensive line early, Brian Thomas was a guy or we were going to trade down maybe from 9. Yep. Brian Thomas was a guy that if we still came away with, I was going to be happy with. I still like Odunze. I think Odunze is still a better prospect than Brian Thomas. Though it's not crazy. It's similar. Jayden Daniels versus Caleb Williams, just because Brian Thomas is being productive. Brian Thomas's production says nothing about Rome Odunze. Same thing with Jayden Daniels' production says nothing about Caleb Williams. But he's something that the defense is going to have to account for. He's got blazing speed. I think I saw the advanced stats or whatever, like Brian Thomas is the fastest ball carrier in the NFL this year, I think, on one of his catches last year. So he's a stellar player. And this offense should be the best offense the Bears have faced since week 2 in Houston. So they're average. I get maybe above average at best, but they have legitimate NFL players at basically every position on offense. And that's something that, the Bears defense is going to have to show that they really are this borderline championship defense and come in and continue their dominance, their turnover ways, and shut down this offense. And then kind of going the other way, I know we just talked about 32, the Jacksonville's defense is 32 in DVOA. Like that's, I get that. But Jacksonville has 2 extremely talented defensive ends. They have Josh Hines Allen, and who was a first-round pick a couple years ago. We just got a monster extension this offseason, and Trayvon Walker, who was the number 1 overall pick in the draft, I think 3 years ago, the same draft that Aiden Hutchinson was in that went to the Lions.
Hold on one second. So for those of you who might not know, Josh Hines Allen is now Josh Hines Allen. He's the same guy who's been going as Josh Allen for the longest time because I think people are like, oh, that's the defensive Josh Allen. Like, that's who that is.
So instead of having to say he's the defensive Josh Allen, he just wants to go by Josh Hines Allen now.
He's got to separate himself. Yeah. I get it.
Yeah. And Trayvon Walker was, a guy that was always an athlete, but didn't really turn that into production his first couple years, but he's turning it into production now. He's got 5 sacks through 5 games. And as much as the Bears offense is improving, where is still the weak point? right? It's still the offensive line. It's still those tackles. So if there's something that this Jacksonville Jaguars defense can do to disrupt the progress this offense is making, is those defensive ends dominating our tackles. So it's just something to keep in mind. Like, this Jacksonville team has talent on it. I know there's issues with the coach. Maybe they've tuned him out. Maybe Doug Peterson. I think they have another game in London after us too.
Yeah, they're there for 2 weeks.
It's very possible that Doug Peterson doesn't come home from London with a job. I get that. I hope that happens, because that means they probably lost both of those games. But I'm not looking at this game the same way I was looking at Carolina game, even though Jacksonville's 1-4. This is a game that the Bears are going to have to show up and beat a talented team, even if they're not playing that well. They're going to have to do it. And, Caleb Williams, he's made some progress. 2 games ago, it was a game manager game where he just made all the plays and do anything. Yesterday, he managed the game and added some splash plays to it. But the game manager game was in a competitive game. He had to just not make mistakes. Last week was just a blowout, and he just got all the stats he wanted. Like, this week, he's going to have to put up stats in a competitive game. And I think it's just going to be different for him. Different pressure, just different things. Like, he's going to have to throw for 200, 280 yards again. But with the game not being determined until the fourth quarter. So we're just going to have to see it. I'm not going to tell you, and I think that's definitely going to happen until I see them take the next step as a team and an offense and go out and beat another team that has some talent on it.
Yeah, so the one difference I think that people aren't going to think about when it comes to this team is, like, the run definitely helped open up the pass.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, we saw DeAndre Swift dominant 2 games in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Teams had to account for that. The Panthers were a horrible run defense. The Jaguars aren't that great either, but they're not as bad as the Panthers. So it might be a little bit more difficult to open things up with DeAndre Swift, with Roschon Johnson in the passing game. But there's some really key matchups. You hit on it right there with the defensive line, the defensive ends versus, specifically, in my opinion, the one that I'm most concerned about is Braxton Jones.
Yep.
Right? Like, I'm very concerned about the fact that he's not going to be able to handle them bull rushing him at all. But that's just one, right? Like you said, there's a lot of talent on that Jaguars team. Travis Etienne, right? Like, their running back is way better, in my opinion, than Chuba Hubbard, right?
Yep.
And
they got that other rookie, Tank Bigsby, making an impact too. Like, they got 2 backs who can.
And their offensive line is pretty good.
Yeah, they don't have all pros, but they don't have holes.
Cam Robinson, Ezra Cleveland. Yeah. Like, I remember wanting Ezra Cleveland here in Chicago. Like,
right. We haven't even mentioned Trevor Lawrence yet. Like, I get that he's not some superstar generational thing that everyone thought, but he's a solid NFL quarterback.
Correct.
He can make plays. He can make throws.
There's definitely going to be some issues. I think so. Getting Evan Ingram back is going to be huge. Both TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds are going to have to be a big impact on this game, especially without having Brisker, because it's going to come down to them kind of keeping Ingram at bay. He's a guy that can get over 100 yards receiving in a game. So that those 2 linebackers are going to be real big, real important. The speed of Brian Thomas Jr. is a concern of mine, because I love Jalen Johnson. Mm-hmm. I think he's arguably a top 3 corner in the league right now. But I don't know how he's going to be against just a speedster.
He's got to beat speed with technique. It's going to be
exactly. It's going to come down to that. It's going to be coming down to having some help over the top. But now you're again without Brisker. So
Brisker doesn't really help over the top.
No, not. I mean, he does, but not the way that we're going to see. Obviously, Byard do it. Mm-hmm. It's there. This is going to be a fun game. I'm
really looking forward to the matchup. And again, I think the Bears can win. Maybe we can get into our prediction soon. It's not that I'm saying I think Jacksonville's going to win. I'm just saying I don't expect this to be as easy as a matchup as a team coming in 1-4 might lead you to believe.
Correct. They're better than a 1-4 team.
More talent than a 1-4 team. Isn't that Parcells? You are what your record says you are.
That's true.
But,
that's true.
Yeah.
So in the comment section, tell us who you're most concerned about, because that'd be interesting. I'd like to have that conversation continue. Who are you most worried about on the Jaguars going into this game? Who doesn't match up well in your opinion? And I'll either, comment, we'll either agree with you or we'll explain why we think that, that's not a matchup to really be too concerned with. I'm ready to get my prediction. We were a little off last week. We weren't as confident as we needed to be.
I mean, we were a little off, but we still both predicted double-digit win on a 4-point spread. I mean,
Did you bet them? We bet them.
I bet the money line. I like to bet money lines when I think a team is just going to win. I'm not worried. I just don't want to worry about the number. I just want, are they going to win or not? If you're a better team, I'll just bet the money line.
So just real quick, Justin and I co-manage our team in our fantasy league with Bob, but we did bet the Bears to cover, and luckily they did. And we got real lucky that Baltimore came back and won in overtime. So should have. I wanted to trail that on my actual bets, and I got busy that day, and I wasn't, as I admitted, I wasn't even watching the game until way after the game started. So I did not do any bets that day.
No, I had a good day. I went pretty heavy on that Bears money line, even with my own money, not just UFFL points, and it was a good day.
It's always good. It's always good to win. It's money. It's always good to win when it's the Bears too. It just makes it feel that much better.
Oh yeah.
All right. So this week I am not as confident as I was last week. I'll throw my prediction out there first. I do have the Bears winning, but I think this is going to be a much closer game. I do think Chicago is going to keep them within their point range, though, and I think it's going to be a 24-21 win.
That's really boring pick, Rob.
I know.
I also have the Bears winning 24-21. I mean, it just is what it is. I mean, it's crazy that that's both what we thought, and then the spread is 2.5.
Yeah.
And the over-under is 44.5. So the Bears are going to win by 3 with a total of 45. So, I'm trying to give out winners, and I've been right the last 3 weeks. 3 weeks ago, I gave out the over or the under. 2 weeks ago, I would have given out the over, but I forgot. And last week, I gave out the spread. This week, I think you just steer clear of betting on this game and just watch it and enjoy it. I really don't see a clear advantage on either of those numbers.
At 2.5, I'll probably take the spread, just because I think they can win by a field goal. But
I think it's more likely the Bears blow out the Jaguars and the Jaguars blow out the Bears. So if you want to look at it that way, I would agree with you there. If the Jaguars win, it won't be by 10 points. Right? It'll have to be a close game.
Yeah. Well, that's good. We got the Bears winning again, so hopefully we keep this streak going. I got nothing else though, other than I wish I was in London.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun time. It's going to be a fun time.
All right. Well, until next week or until Sunday, bear down, claws up.
Go Bears.
I got to remember it's always my microphone side. The Bears.